Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paddock. My name is Henrik,
And my name is Sierra.
and now we will discuss the last series of the weekend, which is F1, and it's debacles.
Yes. Even before a lot of juicy topics to discuss, even before just heading into Thursday for media, we have Esteban Ocon announcing and Haas announcing that they will be partnering up for
Yeah,
2025, so becoming the teammate to Ollie Behrman.
yes.
We have Matito
Mattia
Mattia
Binotto.
Yes, joining the Audi project and taking over for the technical department over Seidel, and I can't remember who the other
Mm,
director was. And then, of course, another Alpine debacle and losing leadership. Bruno Famin is set to leave at the end of August as team
yes.
principal. I think that one has been a long time coming, if we're gonna start with any of them. Uh,
Well,
Bruno,
we could start off with the Ocon to Haas debacle. It came out on Tuesday when we're recording this that he would join Haas.
is anyone surprised? Because I'm not.
No, not really. Although I wouldn't want to see him there.
He's a good driver. He has good results. He is a
Yes.
race winner.
Mm,
I understand why Haas signs him. I also get why people, including myself, are so apprehensive. He is, in terms of driving style, he is very, I guess, diverse.
mm,
Not diverse.
aggressive, maybe.
Aggressive. The best way I find it is that he's Max, but he constantly feels like he has something to prove, and his aggression is always towards his teammate. I
Yep.
don't know if that will be the same with Ollie. One, because Esteban will be the most likely the leader, but I don't think Ollie Behrman's a pushover either. So it could be interesting. As people have made note, the only teammate he has never had an issue with is Daniel. I don't know if that's just because Daniel is Daniel or if it's because when they were teammates, Daniel was very much outclassing Esteban when it came to the drives. But
Mm. And as you kind of alluded to, Esteban Ocon is very aggressive on track, which will be fun to see in a Haas, which is very underfunded, and with an owner that doesn't really show any interest in running the team.
I
Uh,
mean, I think that changes, especially after Gene it's is selling his stocks, not stocks.
well, if he sells ownership, yeah.
Well, he's not, no, he's selling his NASCAR part. So he is investing more, at least what I'm gathering from it is he's trying to invest more into the F1, especially if you were to, this can, again, another future topic that we can talk about, but Andretti definitely try, I feel like Gene saw that, didn't want to sell his team, saw that maybe he was doing better in F1 if he could, do a little bit more funding. So with him selling his NASCAR, definitely brings in more profit, but also allows him to maybe spend a little bit more attention in the series.
True. Uh, One thing that I think Haas could benefit from is a development program for juniors.
They have one. They do have Chloe, I can't think of her last name, but they do have a junior in F1 Academy who's doing she's what, third in the standings now?
We will cover that when we get to Zandvoort.
Yes. The other big LP news again, Bruno Famin is leaving. As I stated, I think that it's more of a long time coming. I'm surprised he stayed as long as he did.
Yes.
Uh, it's been what, almost a year now? When did?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a year on the dot, I believe.
Okay.
Uh, Famine came in as a replacement to Otmar Safnauer, which was fired right after Spa last year.
Was it right after or right before?
Well, it was right after.
Oh, okay.
So in the
I couldn't
following
remember.
race at Zandvoort, he had his first race
Okay.
as the Invisible. But this kind of opens the door, like you say. It opens a door for someone like Ollie Oakes, which has been rumored
Mm-hmm.
to take over that job, the high-tech team principal in F2.
Yep.
But the funny part is that Otmar Safnauer was fired from Alpine at Spa last year, and then Faman comes in as this interim team principal. So this would probably be an interim for the interim. So
He had some okay results. They
yes, he did get the podium with Ocon in Monaco this year. Uh,
No, Monaco was last year for Ocon. He got when Bruno came in, he would have got, I believe it was Gasly's podium at that point. I'm not positive. I would
uh,
have to check back.
well, one thing I do remember is that Gasly got a podium at Spa last year. I think that was
So maybe it
under.
was.
I think that was under Otmar Safnauer's leadership. So no, Otmar Safnauer was had his last weekend at Spa last year. So Faman took over at Zandvoort, which was the following race weekend.
Well, and then of course we have everyone's favorite Ferrari team principal from a couple years ago,
Oh
uh
yeah.
Matteo Binotto heading to Alpine to lead the project or Audi, excuse me, taking over for Seidel. I think it will be fine because he's not going to be team principal. That's not the role he was announced.
No,
Um, and especially, I mean, even Leclerc has said that he thinks he'll do well. I think there's hard feelings there, not gonna lie, but again, I don't think Binotto was ever supposed to be a team principal. I think Ferrari just kind of had to,
put someone in and then
yeah.
yeah.
And at
Uh,
that time, he was, I think, one of the most seniors there. So
mm,
I think this is a good step for Audi and what they're going for. I don't know where this leads Seidel. I don't know what it does for Hulkenberg as he signed there, and I think one of the main
mm,
reasons he did sign there was to work with Seidel, and of course Seidel's not there anymore. I don't know what it does for them looking for their other driver.
no.
It leaves a lot of questions and also some positives when it comes to the Audi project.
Yes, and a lot of false positives could also happen down the line with the Audi becoming a works team
Yes.
and being affiliated with the Sauber name for the academy, of course. That could also invoke this false positive of
Mm-hmm.
Audi being a good team, but they can seem like a good team, but not be a good team. Kind of like what Alfa Romeo was in the last season that they were on the grid. And Alfa Romeo was, yeah, is the former name of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, they did sign some big names like Robert Kubica and Antonio Giovinazzi because of the Ferrari ties, and Charles Leclerc because of the Ferrari ties once again.
I mean, you had Valtteri going there after his stint with Mercedes ended. Of course, we're not going to see the full effect of this until 2026 when Audi fully takes over,
Or
um,
possibly 2027.
or 2027, because I think it helps for next year. I think it helps maybe establish a little bit more with what's happening. I mean, Sauber right now is nowhere. They are wheelie bins. They
Yeah.
had a chance. Botas, we'll get to the race, but Botas was running in 10th and strategy, and they pitted him, and there go your points. Um,
Yeah. Not to mention qualifying, which was horrible for Sauber.
oh,
Uh,
well, I mean, he qualified. Bottas qualified well. He qualified 12th, 13th.
Yeah, he got into Q2, and then after that, he was
I
on the
mean,
downhill flow.
I just think they kind of are in the same boat as Williams when it comes to not having a solid second driver in terms of like development wise. I mean, your lead drivers, at least at Salva and Williams, is Albon and Bottas,
Mm,
with Joe and Logan being nowhere. Aston is a little bit more up and down since
yeah,
it's Stroll and Alonso, where you should think Alonso should be your main point, but Stroll is Stroll.
yeah. And of course, Aston Martin have had an up and down season, like you said. At the top of last season, they were very good and having consistent podium finishes with Alonso usually in P3 or P2 or something like that, and Stroll not far behind, which is very uncommon for him to do. But then comes this season, and they have been absolutely nowhere.
I mean, sometimes they finish just outside the points, but they're
Mm,
not. If they score a point, I'm expecting mayhem to happen in that race.
yes. Aston Martin is usually synonymous with mayhem. Just look at Saudi Arabia last year.
All right, well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this F1 weekend. Of
Right.
course, we had a rainy Saturday, so Friday was the main setups for most of the team. Max just looked in a league of his own.
As is usual
As is
these days.
usual,
Mm.
McLaren looked good practice-wise. Definitely thought they were going to be a lot more contenders than it was. Mercedes kind of looked off, wasn't sure what was going on there. And Ferraris just kind of looked like to be the fourth fastest team at the day. We move into Saturday for free practice 3. We got a karting session. We got a couple minutes of running in the rain. Unfortunately, Stroll did crash in FP3, bringing out the red flag. So we were treated to some karting from commentary, which I found endearing. But then, of course, we went into quali. Of course, Max taking a 10 place grid penalty, meaning even his best, he can qualify pole, but he wouldn't get pole.
No,
Um,
his best position would be P11, which he got. And Tsunoda took a 60 place grid penalty. Speaking of
follow,
penalties,
following in his best friend's footsteps when Gasly took 60 place grid penalty in Silverstone. So, just following his best friend.
yeah. I remember Gasly was quite emotional when it came to saying his quote unquote final goodbyes to Yuki Tsunoda. He
Hmm.
was he called him a little brother sort of thing. That was kind of nice to hear from someone like him. He seems to be very straightforward and very stiff in his attitude, and Yuki Tsunoda is uh, he has a very short fuse.
Hmm.
So that's kind of nice to hear from both of them that they will probably miss each other for a while. And that being said, Yuki Tsunoda didn't sign to Alpine, which was a shame.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for it, but I get why especially because I don't think Red Bull is, I mean, they could, you never know, but I doubt Red Bull will promote him in the end of it all.
Yeah, and he has, of course, got the Honda ties with
Yep,
them. So, come 2026, and he'll probably move to Aston Martin in a reserve role or something
something
like
like
that,
that.
because
Yeah.
they have Stroll and Alonso locked in. Well, if Tsunoda doesn't go elsewhere, for example, to the World Endurance Championship with Aston Martin
I,
or
I will
or Red
never
Bull
know
for
what
that
Stroll.
matter.
I will never know what Stroll does. He has a seat until he decides he's done. Um,
Yeah.
I rest my point on that.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
I won't really dig any more into that. I think that summarized it.
Another so quali definitely interesting. We had so going on provisional poll would have been Leclerc, which definitely I don't think anybody saw this weekend, not even
No.
Ferrari. Perez finally showing some form in quali and getting up to P2, and then followed up by Lewis Hamilton in P3. Nothing more to say with that except Ferrari pulling a blinder with actually knowing how to do a strategy for once in terms of tire use.
Mm. Yeah.
McLaren, I guess, out of place, but you could
And
throw it
Alex
in.
Albon was also very out of place.
Alex could have nipped Perez off, just off by 3 thousandths of a second.
Mm.
So I feel for him,
Yeah.
but it is
Mm.
how it is. But to the race, it was a DRS was either you were in a train or it was very powerful enough for you to pass without issue. So it twofold, but a lot of it was DRS train. It definitely helped with
And pit stops,
Lewis
of course,
pit
was another
stops.
factor.
McLaren, what are you doing? Uh,
McLaren became Ferrari 2022.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ferrari also had a bit of a blunder with Sainz when Sainz was like, the tires are good. I think even Leclerc at one point mentioned, why are we pitting now? So I feel like they could have maybe stayed out longer, especially on Carlos, who started on the hards and then pitted 8 laps after he put on a set of mediums to go back to hards. So I don't know what they were doing there. But promising for the fact that Leclerc did end up in P4, where I don't think they were thinking they would be there, especially because he finished in front of Max and Lando, where he had them in DRS for the last, I
Mm.
want to say, 6 to 7 laps. Of course, it was for our top three, it was George, Lewis, so Mark 1-2 with a storming Piastri at the end coming to take the third spot. Russell making a one-stop work much to the dismay of Lewis Hamilton, who should have won that race. George would have pitted. Um,
Well, if everything had played into his hands, he most likely would have won, yes. But if everything had played into McLaren's hands, Piastri
Lando would,
probably would have won that, or possibly
yes.
also Norris. Yeah,
Well,
but who
Norris'
knows?
start got screwed. His starts the past couple times have just been abysmal.
Yeah, and I also think that Piastri also got screwed in a sense.
It will be made note that uh George is under investigation right now
Mm.
due to being underweight. So he might be disqualified here
Yeah.
and lose his P1, so
Uh,
it might be a going into the summer break, it might be a Lewis Hamilton P1, a Oscar Piastri Oscar Piastri P2,
Two and
and
Charles Leclerc
Char
P3.
yeah, so
Mm.
we'll wait
Uh,
and see.
yeah, and if well, feel free to update our socials or send me a message in the pit lane uh, if anything comes up in that regard. If not, then just let it be.
I don't I didn't th so I know a lot of people were like it's between the McLarens and it's between Max. I definitely won to say Max was going to win that race.
It was way out of contention for the win there.
I just between the cars, between what McLaren was showing, and then even just getting past both Mercs and both Ferraris, I think it just was a bit too tall of an ask. I think P3 was possibly attainable, but I was definitely not under one to see him winning.
Mhm.
I saw maybe Norris winning, but after his start and then not neither of them really showing pace, but I want to say that's because of the dirty air.
Yeah, and probably what was a drying spa.
It was dry. It was definitely dry by that point. It was more wet for F3. F2 was a little spotty, but by the time F1 hit, it was, I would say, the best track conditions.
Well, some parts of the track were still a little spotty, so I think that also played into it.
I, I guess the other main point for our lovely F1, and it's a topic that we've been asking for we since after Miami, Perez, who did start second after the first lap, was in third
Hmm.
and ended in eighth. Um, Podium was bare minimum today, in my opinion. I think his pace, what he should have been faster than the Ferrari. He
Hmm.
should have been faster than Hamilton, and he just wasn't.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he should have been on par with the Ferraris, with the Mercs.
Yes, he should have been up in possibly the top four, like say a podium at a minimum and P2 at best.
So many people have talked about this topic, but yes, I think he either moves down to V carb or he's not in a seat. I don't know who
Well,
they I don't know who they put in,
no,
but
I feel like that's topic for another day, but
I mean it had to be mentioned. They're talking about it on Monday. That is what Helmut Marko said. That has
yes.
been the implications. For a filming day, they're having both Lawson and Ricardo in their cars. It just had to be mentioned. I personally, after this race, after the expectations of him ending in P2 at the end of qualifying, I said for me, his bare minimum was a podium, or his
Yes.
bare minimum was a top five. Should have been on the podium at least second, if not the first step, mostly third.
Uh,
But I don't see how. I understand he has backing. I understand he has funding. I understand he can be a very good race driver, and I wish he was showing his form that he was showing in the beginning of the season, but I
well,
don't see how they keep him to keep the constructors alive.
no, and I fully agree. I understand your point, but uh, instead of saying all this, we'll talk about it on Monday. We'll see after Spa. After saying all this shit, just put Lawson in the car and
I think Horner wants Ricardo in the car.
mm,
That's the whole reason Ricardo came back.
yes, he wants to be in the car for some reason. But he has had a very poor on the form as of late, so I don't think he is deserving of that opportunity in that team now.
Yes, Ricardo has had some. I'm not going to get in the whole strategy of V-carb just because, especially today, if you look, he started on softs. Why? But he had better pace than Yuki today. I understand Yuki was at the back of the grid, but he still had better pace. He finished just outside the points. Yes, he could have gotten a point, but I don't see Red Bull. So I don't see Red Bull doing Yuki as much as I would want to see Yuki because Yuki has deserved it at this point. But
Mm,
if I had to write a script for how this was looking, it would be Perez out of the second seat at Red Bull. It would probably be Danny in moved into that seat, and then probably Lawson going into the second seat with Yuki. And
mm,
then not signing a driver, not signing a second driver, having basically Lawson and Danny fight it out to see who gets that second seat. If Lawson outperforms both Yuki and Danny, promote him to Red Bull next for 2025. And if Isaac wins the F2 championship, you promote him to the V carb seat. That is how I can kind of see this. I'm my opinion could be washed.
well, no, I can see why you are saying that. That especially after the season that Hajar has had in F2, and stuff like that, and especially after the few races that Ricardo was out with injury, that Lawson had to step in at what is now VCARB. I can see the pattern, and the way I see it, just put Lawson in that Red Bull seat and see how long he lasts. And voila, then you have yourself a lineup for next season, if you want to get rid of Perez so badly.
I just think in terms of like, because Lawson hasn't been in since last season. That's why I think Monday will be so interesting. If one, Checo is out of the seat, and two, for the filming day, that's what that is for. If Lawson is faster than Daniel, I see Lawson moving into that seat. If Daniel is faster than Lawson, Daniel moves up to that seat. If they're on par, like if they're going the same speed, like about the same, that's where it gets interesting. That's where I think Horner will be like, Danny has the experience. We'll put him in there, put Liam in the V carb, and then have them battle it out for seeing 2025.
Yes, I can definitely see your point, and but for the sake of it, I would just put Lawson in that Red Bull seat, seeing as he has outperformed Max Verstappen at Marina Bay. He did a decent performance at Zandvoort 1 year ago, and not to mention Monza last year. So, for the sake of that, I would say put Liam Lawson in that second Red Bull seat and see what happens.
I mean, I love to see it. I want to see it. I want to see chaos. I love chaos.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
let's let's throw a rookie. Well, is he a rookie? I mean, he hasn't had
No,
a full
he isn't
season.
defined as a rookie, but if he were to drive throughout the 2025 season, it would be defined as his rookie season.
I mean, it would be the first rookie since Max to be in the main Red Bull car, like get promoted. Max was the last one because he started at Toro Rosso and then moved.
I think
Well, I guess.
Albon was
Oh
after
yeah,
him.
Albon.
Albon,
I forgot
yeah.
Albon.
And Gasly right before, I believe. Not
But
the
they,
first, but one of the last.
I do say I have to wrap this up though, because I do have someplace to be. But I think we covered basically what happened. F, it was not a very exciting race. We had
No,
one DNF,
yeah, one singular
which
DNF,
didn't
and
even
that
cause a
was
safety car.
no, and that DNF was Zhou Guanyu in the Sauber.
Who's
So it
not
wasn't
who's
really. I won't
Yeah.
really count those at this point. I won't really
Yeah.
count Sauber as DNFs.
I mean, to be fair, Logan Sargent didn't finish last. I think it was Nico Hulkenberg on the road. I think
Hmm.
Logan finished P8.
He
Or
actually got
P
points on merit.
P
That's a
No, no, no,
different
no,
story.
not P8. P18. Let me rephrase. He finished P18. I had to rephrase that because I'm like, he did not finish P8. That was wrong. I think that was Alonso.
Yeah, that sounds more correct. Uh,
No, P8 was Perez, Alonso was ninth.
oh yeah,
But
right.
if we're going off of what today happened, we do have changes in the driver standings. This will be the last point that I make. Red Bull Max, of course, stays in the lead with 275. Lando at 197. Charles at 174. Oscar moves up to fourth at 164, so just 10 points behind Charles there. Ferrari, get your shit together. Pardon my
Yeah.
language. Lewis moves up to P6 with 143. Russell to P7. Maybe if his result stands, but he's at 141. And then Perez moves down to 8th at 129. Is that the. Hold on. I need to check something. I actually do need
Yeah.
to check something. He ha Sergio Perez, I am looking at this now, has the same amount of points as Gabriel Bortoleto in F2, who is second. Isaac Hadjar has more points.
Okay. We will continue to release episodes during the silly season, and we will also most likely discuss this as one of those points,
Yes.
as one of those episodes coming out. But with that, do you have one final hot take?
My final hot take. I am pumped for the rest of the season. I think for some reason, I just think Ferrari is going to get their shit together. This is me being in the hype train or whatever. I think they could get their shit together and possibly take the first in constructors.
Ah.
I think it's too up in the air for Red Bull, and unfortunately, I think McLaren they have shown too many inconsistencies. Yes, Ferrari is inconsistent. We understand this. But the fact that they were able to get a P4 as of right now, made a possible P3 going into the summer break where they were looking to fix the porpoising issues, I think they still have a possible chance to maybe get first.
Well, a P4 at Spa is no mean feat.
I mean, Carlos was in P7, possibly promoted to P6. Again, if the George Russell weight limit infringement is actually proven, that will be probably made note later today. But that will conclude our time, unless you have a hot take you want to state.
Not really, except for one thing. I want to see Dino Beganovic in an F2 car.
I think he'll go to F2. I think he'll be promoted. That is a topic I have been thinking about of who is being promoted and who is going where, but we can definitely talk about that over the summer break.
Yeah,
We do plan to release some wrap-ups for the first half of the season.
and
So
yeah,
please look forward for those. We
and
will
some other
have
stuff as well. That's
yes.
probably gonna be pretty fun.
So we will be uploading a bunch of content for you in the next couple of weeks. We will have a link tree out for you shortly for all of our socials. Be more than willing to drop us a comment, drop us a like. You can hit us up at the Paddock for the most part on all social media. We do also have our pit lane that you can email us in. Again, we'll have this all on a link tree for you so it's easier to find. But I hope you all have a good rest of your day whenever you're listening to it. And we will see you next time.
Yes, we will see you at Sandvort in August.
Bye!
Bye bye.